And it just all came crashing down in 2009. But I did still represent a lot of clients. And then when that kind of dried up, I built a restaurant and everything was going amazing. I was really into the culture at that time because I had been there for a few years. And then the revolution was a whole other experience that you can never describe.
Yeah, I don't even know what revolution you're talking about.
Yeah, so it was the revolution when Mubarak was president. So just a little tiny bit of background. This might bore your
That's all right. We got
listeners.
It's not boring me, so let's go.
So Anwar Sadat was the president of Egypt, and he was the first president of Egypt to ever make a peace pact with Israel. And so the Muslim Brotherhood originated in Egypt, and they were the ones that assassinated Anwar Sadat and shot Mubarak, his general in the army. Then after Sadat died, Mubarak became the president. And they got rid of all the Brotherhood. They just threw them in prison and locked away the key. And there was no room for terrorism in Egypt at all. No whispers, no nothing. Egypt and Israel worked very close together. Mubarak and Netanyahu were very close. And so the country was just at peace, and there was a rise up by the people because Mubarak was getting ready to retire, and everybody thought he was just automatically going to appoint his son, one of his sons, to be the next president, and they didn't want that. While Mubarak was great, he did not pay attention to what his army generals and head of security were doing, and it was awful what they were doing to the people of Egypt. They had martial law that never went away since Anwar Sadat, so they could pick you up and put you in jail for days and your family never knew, and they just didn't want to repeat that. So the Brotherhood had been planning for years leading up to this, and they thought it was a takeover by the people because there were millions of people, but it was all calm. I mean, we were all part of it. We were all in the street, millions of people, just asking for there to be a fair election. Some candidates came out and ran, and then one night, just everything changed. Church in Alexandria, was bombed by some Muslims, a Christian church, and that's kind of when it all fell apart. And then the Brotherhood came in and took over the entire country, killing people, releasing prisoners. It was horrific. And to bring calmness, they allowed the Muslim Brotherhood president to be elected, and that lasted only for a short amount of time. The people rose up and took it back. The army came in, and al-Sisi, who's the president now, was head of the army and is still the president of Egypt. So it's calm now. Long story, but anyway, that's, I don't want to get too deep into it,
okay.
But
we got time. This is no time limit.
I think it's interesting maybe for listeners now because they don't really understand what's going on between Israel and Gaza. They only see what they see on the news. And they don't know the whole history of that. So like in 2005, Israel gave Gaza all the area. They made Jews leave the area, their burial grounds, everything. And they gave it everything to the Palestinians in 2005. And there just hasn't been peace since that. But when wars break out between Israel and Gaza, people notice that Egypt and Jordan never let the refugees back into their country. The Palestinians that are looking for refuge, they're never allowed to go back to Egypt or Jordan. And the reason for that is most of the Palestinians are from the Muslim Brotherhood. And so Jordan and Egypt can keep peace with the terrorists being right there in Gaza and not letting them back in. That's why there's walls built and barbed wire, and even in negotiation for the refugees, they still won't let them come back there. So that's kind of the history of what's going on now, and things that most people just don't realize that history. But
yeah, we're so far away.
Yeah.
And got our own problems.
Yeah, and so used to that part of the country fighting all the time.
Yeah, it's just like they bombed each other. Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's every Friday night.
Yeah.
And
they just don't understand, the full concept of it. But
yeah, and I think most people in this country, not everybody, but I'd say 70% of them just don't care.
Yeah.
And just want us to stay out of it.
It's, I agree with what most people think about that.
Yeah.
The one side living there for so many years that they don't understand is if we didn't have access to the intel of what's going on, we would be at Gaza, you know. And we have to work with those other militaries to know where those terrorists are moving about, and we have to cooperate and coordinate and train, and that really keeps America safe, you know. So it's things like that. So for those purposes, I strongly support. But things have changed, you know. Not to be too political, but when Trump was in office the first time, he got the Abraham Accords. So a lot of Arab countries are now do business with Israel. They have embassies in their countries. That's never happened before until the Abraham Accords. And so that's really remarkable. I had a passport, and all I've ever wanted to do is go to Israel my whole life. And I couldn't because I couldn't get an Israeli stamp on my passport, or I couldn't have done business for my clients all over the Middle East. I would not have been allowed into the countries.
Oh, okay.
So, but that's no longer the case.
Yeah.
You can go freely. You can have an Israeli passport and travel to Dubai or Saudi Arabia or any place.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.